Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are Garage Gym Athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. How's it going, Ashley?
Going good.
It's good to have you on again. Hopefully more regularly in the future. Just got to get her back to the U.S., which is happening soon.
I was over the pond.
And then Joe will leave.
Yes.
And
we gotta cover all our bases and have half the coaches overseas and half them not.
And Joe is here. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, I'm just around.
Joe's
just chopped liver.
All right.
Old news.
Yeah. So of everyone who has a hand in the Garage Gym Athlete pie, we're Japan. Where are you going? VD will still be in Japan.
Bahrain.
Yeah, Southwestern Asia.
Baja. I looked it up on a map, so I'm good to go. I just forgot the name. All right, and Ashley will be coming back, so she'll be in the U.S. and I'll be here, Kyle in Tennessee. So pretty spread out. But anyway, back on topic. I'm going to do a fact of the week, and then we'll do some updates. But fact of the week, we've been talking about, and I've been mentioning supplements, like what's good here and there, what's not so good. Well, I made a short list here, and these are all based off of evidence and of the effectiveness of supplements, the good and the bad. So let's go over the good. I have 4 and then 3 bad. So the good antioxidants, they're decent. So asterisk next to that one. Mute button. Regular use can interfere with training adaptations, but a regimen lasting no more than 1 week can help your body cope with added stress like recovering from a race or a trip to altitude. Antioxidants. Second one's caffeine, the most versatile and powerful performance enhancer out there, boosting both brain and muscle function. Who doesn't use caffeine? You guys are caffeine. Joe's like drinking caffeine. There we go. Creatine, we've talked about, good, and then vitamin D is good. I think I've covered it in 5 Line Friday. I don't think we've covered it in the podcast. It's getting hard to keep track of all the studies we've covered now. I knew this would happen. I need to get a master list going so we don't overlap anything. But there's a lot of research on vitamin D and athletic performance that we haven't covered. I don't think. Anyway, after I've talked about something, because I'm speaking into a microphone so frequently now, I don't know if I've said, if I said it to Emily, my wife, sometimes I'm like, okay, that's covered. We covered that, but she's the only person who ever heard it. So I need to start writing that stuff down. Now the bad ones, calcium, it's an effective way to strengthen bones, but in high doses, it may also harden arteries. Not a great thing to supplement with. You want calcium in your diet, but you don't necessarily want to supplement it. Also bad, vitamins A, C, and E, taken over extended periods at high doses. Beta carotene and vitamins A, C, and E have all been linked to increased cancer risks and high death rates, and they may get in the way of exercise adaptations. So you're supplementing with any specific vitamins, which I'm not 100% sure why you would. Vitamin C I take sometimes, but not in high doses over long periods. And then the last one, workout boosters, just stay away from them, whether it's a muscle growth thing, a testosterone booster, anything like that, stimulant, steroid. Maybe not a good idea because of the long-term effects that you're going to have there. But that's my fact of the week is supplements and your body and what's good and what's not.
Yeah, anything with hormones is bad. I take vitamin gummies, but that's just because I like gummies and I'm 12.
Vitamin gummies. I take athletic greens, so that's my vitamin supplement.
Just straight to your mouth.
Yeah, I dump the powder in my mouth like a packet of ketchup.
So for Ashley, actually, I want to ask you about calcium. Do you take calcium? Because Liz has started to take calcium because she's read that females kind of need a little bit more calcium than normal?
Negative Ghost Rider. I take a
Yeah.
prenatal vitamin, so I don't know.
Well, that has calcium in it, I think.
She should
Correct.
just eat more things with calcium as opposed to supplement with it.
Well, for somebody who doesn't have dairy, what has calcium?
Almond milk has more calcium in it than actual dairy milk does. If you do,
There you go.
Fantastic.
Done.
All right,
Start drinking
back to
almond milk.
the
I mean, you might want to just like peep into the calcium studies. They're not great.
week. All right, cool.
Well, I mean, with for some reason,
the arteries are hardening up as we speak.
yeah, calcium's not bad by it, like in consumption, but for some reason in supplementation, it's not good. So I stay away from it. And I learned that when I was making my special electrolyte drink. You know, sometimes I put a little calcium in there, and I was like, "Is this good or bad?" Did the research, not great. So I stopped doing that.
It's like natural sugar is okay, but fake sugar is not that great. Probably not the same scale, but you know, metaphors.
All right, let's get some updates from everybody. We'll start with Ashley. How has your week been?
Fantastical. Last week was the first week that I did 5 workouts. I'm back on the 5 workout train.
Nice.
Whoop, whoop.
So that's including the Meet Yourself Saturday.
Correct. So I'm 11 months postpartum. So I was like, all right, it's time. So I got back from the States, and after eating my face off with some Mexican food, because, you know, they don't have that in the UK,
Yup.
realized, yeah, it's time to get back at it. So cleaning up my diet a little bit, tracking my macros, intermittent fasting, and then, yeah, preparing for the big move. Pretty much like 2 months-ish ago. I'm going to blink and it's going to happen. So
Yeah, that's going to go by fast, for sure.
yeah.
Joe, give me an update as best you can.
Not a whole lot to update. It's more of like a future plans update. About to go on a trip, so I've been trying to think of my training plans for traveling, and we do a lot of hiking, and we're always on the move constantly when we're traveling. So I don't focus as much on training, but on the days that I do plan on training, I will try and remember to throw some bands in my bag. But we'll also have access to a pretty decent gym, full dumbbell racks. So since I never get to use dumbbells, I will probably use the dumbbells. And on vacation, every day is Sexy Saturday.
No.
Sounds like some concurrent training will not be happening.
No, I plan on getting on the bike like for 15, 20 minutes before, and then doing some supersets of a bunch of stuff, and then going back on the bike and doing just getting my heart rate back up. So a little concurrent-ish, sexy concurrent.
Do you have TRX bands?
What's up?
Do you have TRX bands? The TRX?
I just have rings. Rings over TRX. But I don't know if I want to bring rings.
TRX. We took TRX bands with us on the first cruise we ever did, and we did a lot of different things with that too.
Some of them have them. I'm not sure what this one would have, but yeah, rings are pretty great as long as there's something to throw them over. We can be those weirdos.
The door, you can just do like ring rows in your
If you
room.
find an anchor, yeah.
Yeah, unless it's a long trip, I just bring nothing with me now, and I'll figure it out. Maybe do one-man system. Like I just go like fully like let's embrace some no gear and get some body weight stuff in. That's all I do. I have to drop the training mindset.
I can get pulling stuff in with the bands, and then I'll do push-ups, and I can even pike push-ups from the bed, and then go to the gym and see what they got.
It's amazing how fast a vacation day can go, in my opinion. Because if you don't have a lot planned for your day, you're like, well, we'll get a workout in. But if you want to work out at like 10 a.m. in the middle of the day for an hour and a half or whatever, just so much wasted time. So what I'm saying is you need to wake up early and get it done, 5, 6 a.m. preferably, and then hit the rest of your vacation day.
I don't know about 5 a.m., maybe not even 6 a.m., but we'll probably wake up pretty early.
Yeah, you won't even be able to sleep in. You'll try, it won't work.
No.
See, I don't really have a lot to update either. Just getting back in the swing of things from training, going to the Endure track next cycle. So we're not far from that. A few more weeks, right? And so I'll be switching
How's your
over. Brain frog is really good. Still around. And we got a puppy, so he's been okay. But
air quotes.
let's see, I'm trying to think anything else. Oh, I was getting behind on my meal prep. Happens time to time. You get busy with life. And so instead of saying, well, I'll just eat whatever, I ordered a bunch of Ice Age meals from iceagemeals.net. No affiliation, just a little helpful tip for anyone out there. We had Nick Massey on the Better Humanology podcast back in the day. Really cool guy. He was also on Shark Tank. They did not take his business model, but he's crushing it anyway. And he has a lot of great options. So I've ordered from him. I used to order from him a bunch until I realized how cheap you could meal prep your own foods. It's like not even close. Like if you pay for a service versus like doing it yourself is one of the things. It's not like a marginal difference. It's a massive difference to have someone else deliver you food versus just prepping it for yourself. But I want to keep the diet clean, and I'm running short on time, so ordered a bunch of meals, and I'm going to start crushing those. I think they come in today. I'm excited about it.
Some of the things that could be cool though. So like, for example, if we're gone for 10 days and we come back, there's not going to be any food here. So like we have to hit the ground running to a week of work. You might be able to forecast that out and have it, ready to be picked up or something to at least get your week started. So you're not just like, okay, I just got to eat all this quick crap before I can actually meal prep.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's not that bad if you have a grocery budget that it comes out of, because, I don't eat that. If you're eating it for every meal, that's really expensive, but it's really only ever my lunch. And so if I order 14 of them, that's like 3 weeks of lunches for me, and that's like one of their packages. They do 14, 24, so on and so forth. And so it lasts me a super long time once I place an order with their company. All right, enough rambling. Let's get to the business side of the weapon here. Concurrent training. That's what we're going over today. This has been a long-awaited podcast. The reason we're talking about it, a little backstory. We've had lots of conversations about. We kicked this entire new style of the Garage Gym Athlete podcast talking about how we're not CrossFit. And so many people contacted me and let me know that we are. We are CrossFit. Not the people who use our training, the people who actually have never seen our programming or even signed up for free trial are the ones who let me know what we do. And so I just was like, okay, I never like to label what we do. And I kind of talked about this, 2 podcasts ago, because I really feel like we're just strength and conditioning. But like I said, that's too broad. So I wanted to bring it down to at least the next level. And that next level down from, getting a little bit more narrow is concurrent training. That is more in line with what we do because we target specific energy systems really in line with strength training. We don't have a track that doesn't have strength on it. Period. There's no track in our training that does not have an emphasis on strength. That's a very big part of our programming, our methodology. We have to have strength involved. And then how we combine the conditioning is in line with all the parameters and things that have been studied on concurrent training. And I've read a lot about concurrent training over the years because if you just pick up gym bro lingo and like he said, she said, my coach said, my trainer said, whatever, you're going to get allotted into this idea that you can't do both. You can't train for size or you can't train for strength and then also do conditioning and increase both. I've actually heard advanced coaches say on very popular podcasts, if anyone tells you that they're going to get you stronger and fitter, they're lying to you. That's how diseased the strength and conditioning brain is for coaches who are no longer looking at research and only going off of dogma. And that's why we do these types of podcasts. We are constantly reading the literature and updating ourselves where we can be really sharp mentally and in our programming. So if anyone ever tells you that it's not possible, they are wrong, and they are wrong because of the science, not because I said so. They are wrong because of the science. There is so much literature on concurrent training. We're going to cover kind of 2 studies today, but that is I think you'd call that a soapbox I was just on about concurrent training. And so that is what we'll be discussing. And the only other point I have, because I'm truly not a CrossFit hater, is that if CrossFit has shown us anything, if you look at their top tier athletes, all their games athletes, you have to come to one of two conclusions, because they're getting really freaking strong and they're getting really freaking fast, very conditioned. Like, even let's moving outside of their metabolic conditioning. Of course, they can do a CrossFit WOD fast, but these guys can also, run decent mile times. They can do things on the rower at, more aerobic style, pretty fast. Not competitive with people who are in those sports, but still very impressive. And so you have to come to one of two conclusions when you look at what they're doing, and it's either they're on steroids or combined training can work. Because an elite level CrossFitter is not just doing CrossFit; they're doing more concurrent style training. They're doing like Chris Hinshaw has came on. These guys are doing like hardcore aerobic training with hardcore strength training, and then CrossFit Metcons, sprinkled in there, is what the elite level CrossFitters are doing, not what you see at your CrossFit box or anything. So you have to come to one of those conclusions. And I'm not saying, I don't think that every single CrossFitter out there is on steroids. That's not the conclusion I've come to. I'm sure that there are some, and there have been plenty caught and titles ripped away, and that kind of stuff's already happened. But I think what we have seen is that they really opened the door to like, oh, you can get stronger, fitter, faster, all at the same time. And it is possible. So that is a check mark I'll give the CrossFit community, and let you know I'm not a CrossFit hater. All right. You guys ready to get into it? So the study we are going over primarily, here it is, by Hickson. This one was back in the day, 1980, so it's called Interference of Strength Development by Simultaneously Training for Strength and Endurance. And we have the full breakdown of the study. But essentially, let's just give the overview, and then I'll go to you guys for your thoughts. I'm just going to do a quick overview. He basically had people training. One group was training endurance only, one group was training strength only, and one was strength and endurance, basically, combined concurrent training. And he wanted to look at the results of what would happen, because there's this thing called the interference effect. You learn it basically in every textbook in strength conditioning right now. They talk about the interference effect, and the interference effect states that if you train strength and you also train some sort of mode of conditioning, it's going to interfere with your strength training and your gains and your ability to adapt. But people were starting to not believe that as much, and so they came up with concurrent training research. And so let's see. Hickson, I'll throw it to you guys because I feel like I've been talking for 47 minutes. What do you guys think? Just initial thoughts of the study, and then I can go down to some of the results and what they were doing.
They addressed their main limiting factor of they didn't have previous athletes that they tested.
Yeah, they did do untrained people. That is an important note. Which is
just kind of strange. But other than that, yeah, it looks pretty straightforward, I guess. I'd be interested to see if they could do it with, so basically the strength people did that, theirs, endurance did theirs, and then strength and endurance did both training sessions. So they kind of did 2-a-days. So I guess, and the only thing that I kind of noticed toward the end was a slight drop off in strength, but they're still kind of paralleled in gains. So as long as you can handle both, not too much. Ashley?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much hit it. And then they were talking about the, is it the VO2 max for the strength versus the endurance, and strength and endurance, how strength didn't have any increase in that. So that's the only thing. I guess basically it took like the strength and endurance people both got what just the strength people did and the endurance people. So
yeah, they excelled at what they trained for, but the strength and endurance group got still good at everything.
Yeah, and
maybe not as proportionally enough, but still, everything went up.
You know, when I first started researching concurrent training, I remember listening to or watching a YouTube video about Louis Simmons, and you always have to know who you're talking to and where their information is coming from. So Louis Simmons, if you know my background, anything, Louis Simmons is like the guy I probably respect most, even though he doesn't really do concurrent training. He's 100% powerlifting coach. I just think he's one of the smartest brains in the strength and conditioning world. He's worked a lot of track athletes at the professional level, so he also knows how some of this stuff works. But I'll never forget that his mind was boggled. He was like actually confused as to why any human would not only want to be strong. So like they were basically trying to ask him about concurrent training in this interview, and he knew a lot about it and he understood it, but he was confused. He's like, I don't really understand, like, why would you go back squat and then like go and try and run? Like I don't understand why you're not gonna be as strong if you run and strength train. And the answer to that is absolutely. Absolutely, that's the truth. You know, there are just some people out there who are more geared towards health and not strength only. And so, someone brought up in the Facebook group also, what's the other, Mark Ripto? Mm-hmm. Also respect him. He is a little crotchety. I'm not talking trash about the guy. He is an amazing strength coach, but he's very, very much same lens. You know, he is a powerlifting coach. He thinks that you should not train conditioning other than in his own parameters, and he doesn't really see any point to it, and that's because you're talking to a powerlifting coach, right? So if you train only strength, you're going to get way stronger than if you add anything else in. I mean, I feel like that's almost a no-brainer, right? Like if you only train strength, you're going to get stronger. But if you train strength and something else, it appears that you can combine them both at the same time. So to summarize the interpretations from the Hickson data is concurrent training for a period of 6 weeks did not mitigate significant improvements in either strength or endurance, and improvements were similar to the groups training with a singular focus. Strength training alone did not reduce VO2 max, actually numerically improved it by around 5%. Concurrent training resulted in similar increases in thigh size as strength training only after 10 weeks of training. So the actual size differentiation was very negligible. Their legs grew to the same amount. Concurrent training resulted in greater losses in body fat than strength training only. So to me, I see these charts and data from concurrent training, and I start to drool. I'm like, that's what I want. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to get stronger, not as strong as the strength guy. You're going to get more muscular, not as muscular as the strength guy. And then it's like, oh, but your VO2 max is going to skyrocket compared to the VO2 max guy, and you're going to lose way more body fat than the strength guy. I'm like, yes, you found it. That's what I want. That's what I want to be doing. And so that's what this study found. And then there's another study, the Wilson one. If you guys have that one pulled up, or you could scroll down to the article we have. He did a meta-analysis to look at all this stuff. And let me see. That's where that chart comes from, that actual chart that I was mentioning. And it's also, if you guys want to see this chart, you can go to in3fitness.com and just look at our blog. I have a concurrent training article that's pretty recent, so you can go check that out. But if you scroll all the way down, I don't know if you guys have it pulled up, under it says derived from 17. But then it actually looks at like running concurrent, cycling concurrent, and then strength only. You guys see that figure too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like there actually is a difference in looking at, what's better, running, cycling, or strength. So I'll go over that data real quick and then kind of see what your thoughts are. So lower body hypertrophy, so hypertrophy is muscle growth, was the most in strength, second most in cycling, and then third most in running. So if you want some muscle growth, cycling might be your best option for your conditioning apparatus. Lower body strength was the most in strength, second most in cycling, and then third most in running. But I mean, it's a marginal difference between running and cycling at that point for the strength. Lower body power, most in strength, second in cycling, third in running. Still negligible on the lower body power between cycling and running. VO2 max was the most in running, second most. VO2 max improvement was the most in running, second most in cycling, and barely anything at all for strength. And then body fat was very interesting in this part of the study because the most body fat reduction was from running, second most was cycling, and then third most was strength. This showed strength and cycling were a little bit closer in their reduction of body fat. So just I think the apparatus that you choose to do your training with, because we have that question all the time, and we actually give people the option, right? Like when we're doing a lot of these intervals and endurance work, it doesn't matter what track you're on, that you're all doing it at some point, whether it's 30 seconds on, 90 seconds off, 60-minute run, everyone's got some version of it, but we let you pick your apparatus. So with some of this data in mind, you could choose a bike, air bike, or an actual cycling, like like I've been doing road biking, or we give other options. Rowing is not on here, but I'm assuming rowing would probably be similar to cycling and not running. Running is so metabolically demanding. Anyone who's ever run understands. You hear this often. I hate running. Like, you've heard people say that? I think I've said it. I'm sure everyone said it at some point in their life. But based off of that, if you guys had to pick based off of that chart, and you're like, okay, moving forward, I have to choose either being on a bike or running for the conditioning aspects in Garage Gym Athlete, which one would you guys want to do?
I usually always still would default to running.
For what reason? What's the main reason you'd want to run?
I don't think I'm just more comfortable with it. I've never really done much cycling, though it would be kind of a toss-up. Like if I had maybe the bike that you just got, the Concept 2, that would be, since I haven't really tried that out or done much cycling, all I have is an Airdyne, which is now broken.
Officially
to use.
Yeah.
It's I think it's gotten worse too. So if I had that, I'd probably switch on and off, and that's, having the freedom to do that is fantastic, and I'd recommend. But I probably still lean toward running. I'm not. It's kind of hard to say. It depends on the workout.
And how about you, Ashley?
Well, I mean, if I'm looking at the data, then I guess I would want to do a bike. I don't really have a bike, but definitely looking into get a rower. I would be interested to see if they would have added the rower in there, like where that would stand. And I think you're right, Jared, just with the push-pull effect of kind of like pushing off with your legs and whatnot with the rower. But yeah, I think I would want to bike, but I'm a soccer player at heart, so I've always...
Yeah,
run says bike, but running, I think I would just enjoy more, because like adjusting and sitting on the seat for a while, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about that seat.
It's not comfortable.
It gets better. No, I agree with you. And the main reason I got the bike erg, I don't know, I've had a rower since 2012, maybe. Yeah, maybe 2012. And so I've done a lot of rowing. I'm a pretty decent rower, and I just you got to mix it up. It's not because I want to dive into cycling so hardcore. I just love Concept 2 products, and it was kind of between a ski erg and a bike erg. And I've used the ski erg. I was like, I don't think I could just enjoy a 30-minute ski erg. Like that doesn't. In having used them, but I already know a lot about biking, and what's cool about just having this computer data, and whether that's on a rower or any other kind of device, Airdyne, something like that, you can actually train. Like I can't get on my bike and go train because there's going to be a car or a stop sign or something that stops me. So if I'm trying to go 30 seconds hard, 90 seconds off, it's not super easy to do when you're out in the real world. So having some sort of trainer, and that's in these studies, that's what they're using a lot of times. So when they say cycling, they're most of the time they're using a some sort of trainer like that. Let me scroll down to this meta-analysis. So the second study that we're referring to, see if I get grab the guy's name real quick, and we'll link to all this in the show notes if you guys want to look at it. So yeah, Wilson 2012 study meta-analysis, and the reason I think this one's important is because Hickson 1980, 2012 Wilson. So you realize the gap there in calculating their results, but this is a really popular study to look at concurrent training, and if you guys want to just dive into concurrent training, you can. There's another one between Dr. Kevin Murak in 2016, more recent, and he found the same thing. He titled his study "Skeletal Muscle Hypertrophy with Concurrent Exercise Training: Contrary Evidence for an Interference Effect." So basically, he's like, "Hey, I read all the textbook that you guys made me read. I understand the interference effect, but I am now, like putting out data that says that the interference effect doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. Now, the only kind of takeaway I want to give people before we can kind of move on and we can kind of talk about, we'll briefly talk about Endo 3 fitness training or whatever, but there are some parameters, and let me get to them real quick, that you can kind of pull from all these studies. It's best. It's funny because you need at least a 5-minute rest period. And that's like in the research all over the place. A 5-minute rest period between the strength work and then whatever other conditioning that you're going to do. So this is, there hasn't been enough study on these Metcons or mixed modal workouts in CrossFit. So that's why you can't really call them concurrent training, because all the concurrent training research looks at, we're going to do strength and then we're going to do our conditioning, separate, either separated by 5 minutes, 6 hours, or 24 hours. They said 24 hours is the best if you want to ensure that there's absolutely no interference effect, but 5 minutes is still adequate and that there is marginal difference between the two. And I think that's pretty funny, because it's like, we can rest 5 minutes or we can rest 24 hours before we do it. And so that's the only thing that you don't fully get or know or understand with mixing everything together. We do it, like mixed modal aerobic training, we do that stuff, but we don't really have a lot of data on what's your leg, hypertrophy growth going to be, your strength, power output, like all these things. We don't have data on if you were to just mix all those things together, which is kind of what CrossFit does, on these specific, like what's your VO2 max gonna, where's that going to go? Where's your body fat going to go? We have to kind of assume a lot of those things. We don't have the research that backs it up. So we use those, but we use them in very specific ways. We use rest periods a lot of times when we program that stuff. So like these 3 exercises for these reps, this many rounds, rest 90 seconds between rounds. And that's part of the reason we're doing it. It's part of the reason we do that, is because I think there's a little bit more research on resting as opposed to just doing a 20-minute AMRAP as much as you can possibly fit into that time frame. So that's just a little bit more, peeling back why we do things the way we do them. You guys have any questions, comments, concerns while I look for my wrap-up statements?
I don't say any questions, but comments on how they did strength training and then their endurance training, but the concurrent training that they do it. So I know there's a lot of lifters out there that they will do their strength, their bro session, then they'll get on the elliptical
and walk. Yeah, or treadmill and just power walk, and they think, okay, this is my conditioning, I'm burning calories, but it's not burning calories. In the study that they did, it's actually max meters that they tracked in a 30-minute session. So you're actually going at the higher heart rate zone, trying hard for the 30 minutes, not just sweating to sweat. So right.
I really wanted to distinguish that. Like, you actually have to try for conditioning, not just move and sweat. And
that's a really good point, because bodybuilders, they don't care about performance, and that's the biggest. And we're not a bodybuilder style thing. We're very performance driven, but that is a huge difference, because that's what's taught in global gyms around the world. Is you hit your 30 to 60 minutes of your isolated muscle contractions. Then after that, you go walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. And their reasoning for doing that is they want to be in this really low heart rate zone, and they're more bioenergetics. Hey, let's target fat as our energy source here. So they're trying to burn as much fat as possible in walking. They don't care at all about how fast they can walk, how many meters they can go, or anything like that. Their only concern is fat burn. And so that's a really good
kind of a waste
point.
of time.
Yeah, I mean, unless you are a bodybuilder and that's what you want to do. That's why I've been writing so many articles lately. Like 2 have recently been published. I'm working on one that's currently 7,000 words. I have another one that's about 1,500 words, and I don't know why I'm writing so much right now. I feel like I just have to. And I'm trying to articulate these points, and one of them is this point you hear all the time about just be consistent. Just be consistent, and that's it. And I don't agree with it. I do, but I don't. Okay, so I do agree that you need to be consistent. That's a huge thing. But I also think that you need to overlay that consistency with trying to beat yourself somewhere, not trying to beat anyone else. And it doesn't have to be a back squat PR, but going for some sort of personal record while being consistent. It kind of illustrates your point, Joe. Like you need like that intensity factor is important, but it doesn't have to be this aggressive intensity all the time. It just needs to be, let's be consistent while trying to beat ourselves at something. Like that's what you need to be shooting for. It's like a checklist. It's not just consistent. It's not just going for PRs. It's being consistent while trying to beat yourself at different things is what will get you the most results. And walking on a treadmill for no reason at all, yes, in my opinion, is a waste of time because I don't want to get better at walking. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mentioned 24 hours is ideal, but 5 minutes is fine. Yeah, that's basically it. So there aren't a lot of other parameters that you need to know other than, not mixing too many if you were to do concurrent, you have to use your brain a little bit and say it was cycling because cycling is so lower body focused. You wouldn't want to have this massive squat leg type day for 45 minutes and then do a really hard 30-minute cycling workout. You could probably running would be a better option, or even rowing, but cycling is just so leg heavy, you might not see the results that you're going for. And that's what we do. Concurrent training. So that's the studies. If you guys want to, this is a body of research. It's not one study. We've probably talked about on accident, 3 or 4 different studies, maybe 5, in referencing everything here. But if you guys want to dive into more, that's what we do. We do concurrent training, and that will be my answer from now and forever if anyone asks. And if you want to tell your friends about what Garage Gym Athlete does or what you do, it is called concurrent training. And it is the biggest bang for your buck in getting your health parameters, your strength, your conditioning, everything where you want it to be. Because how many times have I talked about I don't like powerlifting. I don't like it. It makes me upset because I see so many people that's probably the biggest thing that happens in garage gyms, right? Is powerlifting, people powerlifting in their garages, and it's fine. I just don't I don't understand training that can make you unhealthy. I don't get it. I don't understand that it doesn't compute in my brain. Why would you want to work out and not be healthy? And I'm not saying powerlifting automatically equals unhealthy. There's so many bad habits in that culture that have to do with food, injury, and lack of conditioning. All these things, not good. We see all these strongmen die at 36. Goodness. Why is that okay with anyone? But that's just me. I'm just one man, one barbell. All right, guys. So I'm going to briefly go over this, or maybe I should have one of you guys try going over it. So we're kind of shifting to the article I wrote recently on concurrent training. If you guys want to pull that up, I would love to hear one of you volunteers, and maybe you guys can help each other, brief this idea of the pyramid that I have outlaid there, and then we could just go from there. We've talked about this in passing, but this is more putting it in a concurrent training model. No volunteers.
So you're talking about strength, dynamic, max, the control, all of that?
Yeah.
So you just want me to sum it up? Sum it up.
I just would love... my ideas are my ideas, so I understand them perfectly. So I'd love to hear someone else's idea of my idea.
Okay. So you started out with the submax. So not basically lifting, but it's not your 1 rep max, 5 rep max. You're not going for maxes. It can be lighter. You said it could be body weight. And you said bonus tempo lifting, which I loved that, adding that in there. And then we talked about combining that with oxidative training, which just basically means that you are doing a longer duration of any kind of aerobic work. So it's not a short amount of time. Yeah. Joe, do you want to chime in on any of this?
And this is step 1. This is, if I had to lay a foundation for a human, this is what it would be. Step 1, what Ashley just said, submax plus oxidative.
Yeah, the submax control is kind of what you would see in slightly hypertrophy type work, just anything of medium rep ranges, not going to failure or anything, just to getting a good framework and baseline or foundation for strength. And then oxidative is just keeping your heart rate elevated for an extended period of time.
Perfect. It's like you guys understand it fully. Okay. It's not a quiz. I know you guys know all these things. You know the energy systems and stuff. I just like talking less if I can. And then what's next after that?
So max. So I said the control is setting the foundation for strength for the mid-level rep ranges. Max is actually taking stuff to failure or close to failure to actually push your muscle and your strength to your limits, because you actually have that foundation to be able to do that. And then phosphagen is, I believe, shorter duration, much higher heart rate zones, so that once your body is comfortable with having it elevated for a while, now you can elevate it to the next range for not as long, but just getting it a little bit higher to hurt more.
Yeah, and those phosphagen ones they're only 10, maybe 15 seconds long. Your primary energy source is going to be ATP, which is just stored energy in your muscles before it has to switch to like carbohydrates or something like that, which would be longer. Now, max can be multiple different things. It can be 5 rep, 10 rep, 11 rep, 100 rep, whatever you want it to be. But you do get your central nervous system involved a lot more. And so that base I was talking about, I mentioned in that article, like that's all you ever need to do to be a healthy human is do control submax work with oxidative. But I don't want people to get confused. Like that's all you ever need to do to see all the results you ever want. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that's all you ever need to do if you want to be a healthy human. If you want to look a certain way, have muscles that a certain size, things like you have to go to the next step. If you want any sort of performance metrics, and that is the next step, because if you don't start getting your central nervous system involved and hormones are not produced at higher levels, you're not going to see any of the results that you're really looking for. So that's a really important factor, an important next step is adding in that max effort stuff. And also the thing on the shorter bout conditioning, you can do that only really in monostructural type ways. So like a rower, a bike erg, things like that for 10, 12 seconds, really hard sprints. And you can do that with weightlifting. It's a form of that style of conditioning. You can't really do that in CrossFit style, whatever workouts. So, I mean, if it's just not possible. We've tried it. It's just not, you can't do it. It's too short. Like how are you going to string 3 exercises together in 12 seconds? Maybe like Cindy, you could do that. A portion of it, like something like that, but it's really, really too hard. And then we move to the third.
I got phosphagen and glycolytic mixed up in my head.
Well, you didn't reveal any time domain, so I thought you still got it, man. You're good to go.
Cool.
Glycolytic is the worst one. I guess since you both briefed one, I'll take the last one. So dynamic and glycolytic. Briefly, dynamic is really fast, explosive type movements, not ballistic, just faster than normal. We talked about this in a study in a podcast. The only thing that you need to do as a coach or to get an athlete to move fast is to tell them to move fast. Be like, hey, I want you to move faster than normal. Even if the weight's not actually moving that much faster, it is. It's moving fast enough to develop more force to get the results of dynamic effort lifting. And then glycolytic is the worst of them all, and something that's also not necessary almost at all to be a human being. Like we program it very rarely. We do glycolytic, 2, max 3 times per month. Some people do glycolytic every day, and that's a great way to quickly age your biological system. And so like an athlete, right? So we look at professional athletes. Glycolytic training is not this superior thing. So I'm going to stop saying glycolytic. I'm going to start saying these high intensity. People talk about how awesome high intensity training is. And there is a lot of great research behind it. But if you look at an elite athlete who's going high intensity all the time, if you look at the lifespan of a professional athlete, that's probably not what you're shooting for. You're probably not shooting for being broken at 42 or 56 or whatever. You're not wanting to have to and you have no reason to. So high intensity is good, a lot of research behind it, but it's not something that you should do all the time unless you're looking to, accelerate how quickly you wear down your body and your metabolic system. So glycolytic is about 90 seconds to 2 minutes worth of work. I argue and would love to try and publish more research that glycolytic can be maintained for much longer than that, but the research doesn't support my theory yet, so we'll wait, and when it does, you heard it here first. But yeah, so glycolytic, really crappy stuff. Airdyne, all out 2 minutes. A lot of the CrossFit workouts you're familiar with, Fran, rower, things like that, are just brutal stuff, and they suck. And they are the workouts that should scare you a little bit. And that's it. That's the way we do it. And this is still concurrent training because we normally train one and then the other. What we're not doing, and this is where a lot of the research is on concurrent training, is strength and then like aerobic endurance, period. Just aerobic endurance. We do concurrent training by hitting all these different energy systems, which is still concurrent training by the definition. It's just not what all the studies have been done on yet.
So I have an improved visual from the pyramid. Since most people are going to be listening to this.
So you're going to help them visualize it.
Yes, I'm helping them visualize. All right. So it's on the article, you can see it as a pyramid, and it makes sense. But if you really want to picture it, then control, you start with the control. So the pyramid, instead of a pyramid, it's like a taco. And everybody loves tacos.
Okay, hold on. Got taco.
The control, and the oxidative, that's base layer. That's your tortilla. That's your tortilla. That's your shell.
Got it.
Then you go to max and phosphagen. That's your meat. That's, the good stuff. That's right there in the middle. And then you got to finish off your taco with some toppings with your dynamic and glycolytic.
So
that's
cheese.
That's your
that's
cheese,
your dairy free.
or your whatever, or salsa, or whatever you need, guac, whatever, and then your taco is complete.
So that will be a shirt along with Fat Breather, available at a Garage Gym Athlete merchandise store near you. I'll make the taco and I'll just put arrows like dynamic, glycolytic. That's I love how your brain works, Joe.
Something outside the box, outside the shell.
All right. Well, hopefully this wasn't too dry for anybody. I know we covered a lot of like kind of in the weeds with this stuff, but I think it's important to know to make yourself more effective as an athlete, to know that you can do these two things and they're okay. You can do concurrent training, whether that's in our programming or somewhere else, and you can still see the results that you want. It's not this fictitious unicorn that's unachievable or uncatchable, can't be captured, right? That's a unicorn, can't be captured. It is very possible. Hey, you guys, I don't read the mythology or whatever, all right?
I was going to say, her and I are both reading books that have ones where they've been caught.
So you guys are currently reading a book that has a unicorn in it?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I thought about that too.
All right. This is awesome. Okay, now the last part, we are going to cover my favorite workout of all time. Who wants to brief it? Not me.
False. It's your baby.
It's my favorite war movie of all time, where this is coming from.
It is a really good
We Were Soldiers is like one of my favorites.
Then you can brief it. I think that's perfect.
It's the worst. Broken Arrow, which you got to envision that with like Mel Gibson's voice as he's like.
Did you guys like that teaser video I did for Broken Arrow? It's the only time I've done like a pre-teaser for Meet Yourself Saturday when it first came out. I pulled that Mel Gibson scene and he's like looking around and like everyone's dying and things are on fire, and then he's like shakes his head. He's like, Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that sums up this workout perfectly.
Yeah, you should be afraid, but it's going to be great. So the buy-in, if you have a vest, wear it. If you don't, just go ahead and try to crush as many as you can. 150 squats, 100 push-ups, and 50 strict pull-ups, and you can't partition it. That's the thing that is huge on this workout. And then bike for 10 miles, run for 3 miles, and then double unders 1,000 reps. And then the cash out, if you did the best for the first part of the buy-in, then take the vest off and do the exact same thing: 150 air squats, 100 push-ups, and 50 pull-ups. Except this time, you can kip them.
Kipping is allowed if you can do strict pull-ups already. That's just yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just making like for people doing it, like if you can now kip if you can already do strict pull-ups. So that's my assumption that you completed the first part.
The vest comes off before the bike.
Oh yes, very important. Don't vest with the bike on.
All these
other way around.
They're like, I really met myself. I biked with a vest on.
Hey, when it first happened, a lot of people, like some people, did it incorrectly because we didn't make it very clear that you don't have to wear the vest for the bike, the double unders, the run, all that. So this is a great workout. There are established and recruit recommendations. I'm not going to go over them all, but it's essentially if you're in the established category, we go down on the repetitions for the calisthenics, and we also go down in the distances for the monostructural stuff and recruit even further down. Other notes I have: if you don't have a bike, you can row. If you do not have a bike or rower, then you'll double the run distance. And then my last note: if you don't want to or can't run, do a different workout.
Best one.
Yeah, so that is Broken Arrow. I've done it. Have you guys done it? Let's be honest. No. Okay, Ashley hasn't. Joe, I think you did a variation, right?
Yeah, so for the bike, we only have one Airdyne, so we did it as like a partner style. Mm-hmm. So we just did like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, like swapping until we got however many miles. I think we did the established miles as a partner or group, whatever, because it was just like switching on and off. It was just taking forever. We did the run, the double unders, and we did everything else.
Nice. And yeah, don't walk into this one thinking it'll be easy. It will be over an hour for most everybody, probably 90 minutes or more. And I don't think I put a cap on it.
No. So this is just a slow grind, get through it, find a comfortable being uncomfortable pace that you can sustain for like 90 minutes.
There's a full Murph in it, add a mile, and then 10 miles of biking and 1,000 double unders. So if Murph scares you, this one should be a little frightening. But yeah, I've completed it multiple times. Trying to think if I have any tips. There aren't a lot of tips on this one. Go fast is a good tip I like to give on all the workouts, especially on the calisthenics. Don't save yourself there. Bike as hard as you can, run as fast as you can, do the double unders as quickly as you can. And then once you get to the last part of calisthenics, just go fast there, and then the workout will be over. And that's my full recommendation.
I think it might be over far, far sooner if they're going as hard as they can. They're just going to fall over.
Yeah. What do you have?
I think for air squats for me, if just try not to break those up. Like one for air squats, I think I can do 150 straight, but the push-ups is what's going to get me, right? So you kind of have to know what your strength and your weakness is. And then for the biking and the row, biking or running, then that's it's not your rest, but it's kind of, you're going to have to pick a pace that's not all out, unless you're Jared Moon, and then you just go as fast as you can. So,
yeah.
Well, and I have a clarification question for you guys. So I am doing Murph once a week. Would this count?
Oh yeah.
Can I do this instead of Murph on one Saturday? Can I do Broken Arrow? Because there's a Murph in there. Like, does that?
I would say
count?
so.
You'd have to put the vest back on.
Okay. All right. I will put the vest back on, but if it counts as a Murph, I'm going to do that. I did like a rowing Murph when my knee was hurt. My foot and knee were a little messed up, So I still have to make up that Murph. And that one didn't technically
count in my book.
It kind of counts, right? And so this one, that's why I got to ask, because I'm not like, I like doing this Murph project or whatever, but we're not I'm not trying to set any world records for most Murphs completed or anything like that. I would like to hold the world record for fastest Murph ever completed, but that's one time. You call Guinness, they come out, they record it, like all that stuff. That's one. What the work was put in or it wasn't. But if you guys think this counts, and listeners, you guys can chime in. Let me know what you think. If it counts, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it either way. But I just love that workout. So fun. Okay, that's it, guys. Any parting shots, words of wisdom?
No.
Join us because we like tacos, and we'll help you complete your taco.
Yeah, we have lots of ideas for different shirts. And
Yeah.
Joe just made a new one. And if you actually go to our store, you'll notice that none of these shirts are actually being made.
Yeah.
But we're thinking about them. We got
One day.
We got a few people chime in on the Fat Breather shirt in the Facebook group. They were all about it. But
I'm just waiting for after a workout one day, someone's going to post, completed my taco today. Awesome. High five.
yeah, well, it takes about a week to complete a taco in our programming because, okay, we're getting too in the weeds.
Ashley's not liking it.
Okay, all right, we're out of things to say. So here we go. Peace out. See you guys. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.